All right, good afternoon, everyone. This is Ryan with Complete Care IT. Wanted to welcome everyone to our Network Security Threat webinar. We've been getting a lot of questions about a lot of these ransomware viruses and some of the other threats that have been in the news recently, so we wanted to put together a little presentation for you all and give you some real good actionable information that you can use to help protect your business and give you a couple things that you can take a look at to evaluate what you're currently doing and see how you stack up. So we're going to get started. All right, so some quick introductions. Complete Care IT, we've been around for going on 30 years now. I'm joined by Patrick Elloa, who is our founder and CEO. And Patrick, if you want to say a little bit about yourself.
Hello, everyone. As Ryan stated, my name is Patrick Elloa. I'm the president and CEO of Complete Care IT. We've been around for about 30 years. So I want to welcome everyone that's decided to join us and spend the next 20 to 30 minutes with us. Our goal is to make sure that you get value for your time. We want to make sure at the end of this seminar, you look back and go, wow, this was truly worth my time, and hopefully decide to join us for our next webinar and invite some friends with you. So that's our goal, to educate you, empower you, inform you as to what's going on and what you can do to protect yourself.
All right. And then again, my name is Ryan Lowell. I'm the company's vice president, and I also function as the VCIO to our clients. So for everyone who's under our managed IT plans, I act as your advocate and your IT manager to kind of help guide you on some of these different decisions for your backup and your security and help educate our customers. So that's my role in the company. So that's why we're presenting here today. So real quick, we're going to go through some of the recent security threats, some of the things that have been in the news recently. Unfortunately, a lot of this stuff has been headline news, and we want to make sure that everyone's educated on how that relates to their actual business. We are going to give you a couple of tips also on how to evaluate your backup strategy, because at the end of the line, that's your last line of defense. And we want to make sure that everyone's got a good, robust backup in place. We also have a Q&A down at the bottom. If you look down below the presentation, you've got an area where you can type in your questions. We're running on a little bit of a delay with the broadcast, so feel free at any time throughout the presentation to go and type in your questions. And when we circle back at the end, we'll go through and we'll answer any specifics that you guys have. Happy to address any aspect of IT and security, so no question is a bad question. Go ahead and submit whatever you'd like to know, and we'll be happy to address it. And for those of you that hang around to the end, we've got an offer for a network security assessment. Have a little bit more information at the end there so that you can take advantage of that. Okay, so like I said, there's been a lot in the news recently about viruses, and specifically a type of virus called ransomware. For those of you that aren't familiar, ransomware is essentially a virus that locks all your files up, goes into your computer, it locks everything away in a way that you can't get to your files anymore, and then the people who wrote the virus sell your files back to you. You have to send them money in a anonymous way through the internet, and if you're lucky, they will unlock the files and give them back to you. And this has been by far the most prevalent kind of virus that's been coming out recently. Patrick can tell you it's been a plague. We've had a couple of potential clients come to us that have had major losses because of these viruses, and it's just really been devastating.
Ryan, the big dilemma for a lot of these people that's been hit is, should I pay or should I pay or not? That's been the big dilemma. The problem is, if you pay, then you get on the list. You become a target almost of someone that's paid in the past. If you don't pay, then you don't get your data back. So that's a pretty tough place to be in. So really our goal is, how do we just keep you off that list? How do we keep you out of this situation so you're not having to make these difficult choices?
Yep. And we've even spoken to people who have actually paid the ransom, had no other choice because they had not had a way to recover from that virus, and they still didn't get their files back. So not a good situation to be in. And as you can see, we've got a couple of headlines here. Won't go too deep into them, but the WannaCry virus was really the one that hit the news big. This came about 2 months ago, middle of May. This is actually the virus that shut down the British National Health Service. Believe it or not, they had people that were being turned away from hospitals and doctors' offices because a lot of their medical records had been locked up. So this was kind of a new wave of these kind of threats coming out, and that was a really major piece of news a couple of months ago. And then as soon as a month later, although the WannaCry virus has largely been taken care of, now there are copycat viruses out there and other viruses that are built on what started out as the WannaCry virus. So now they're refining them, they're making these things more effective, and they're re-releasing them and infecting more and more people. And every time they iterate that virus, every time they come out with a new version, it's uglier and worse and just really, really destructive to the businesses that it hits. And then got an article from 2 days ago, as of this webinar, the KQED radio station in San Francisco was hit, shut down their email server, shut down their Wi-Fi, and they actually couldn't get back to getting regular emails inside the organization for 2 weeks. So if you can imagine something that puts the brakes on your business for over 2 weeks, I mean, imagine what that would do to, I mean, anybody nowadays.
I don't see how you survive. To be out of business for 2 weeks, I don't see how you pick back up and continue your business. You lose credibility with your customers. It's just not a good place to be.
Nope, absolutely not. So we want to kind of define what the risks are to your business when something like this happens and what some of the costs related to that stuff is. So just some numbers. These are based on a couple of industry studies over the last couple of years. 20% of small, medium businesses have some kind of major loss of their data every 5 years. So you got a 1 in 5 chance of having a 1 in 5 loss of your data. And this is a catastrophic loss in this study. So this means all of your files, or the majority of your files, are gone. 70% of businesses have had a data loss due to deletion, disk failure, viruses, fire. So viruses are a big threat, but not necessarily the only one. I mean, there's theft, there are natural disasters. Most of our clients live in Florida. You know, we're officially the hurricane state. So it's not just viruses that pose a threat to your business. It's also some of these other things, and a backup protects from all of them.
What about internal threats, Ryan? What about that employee that you're really unhappy with? They know you're unhappy with them. Can you elaborate and talk a bit about that on disgruntled employee that's leaving? A
disgruntled employee is absolutely probably one of your greatest threats because they are inside of your security perimeter. Those people are the ones that have access to your files already. They don't need to break into your organization. They can just go and delete things right out of the shared drive. And if you don't have a strategy to protect against that, then that can be just as big of a threat as something coming from the outside. More recent study, this is just recent, and it's saying that 51% of businesses have already experienced a ransomware attack, and of those businesses, 48% had to pay the ransom to get their files back. So half of all businesses have been hit by this, and of those businesses, half of them weren't prepared for it. And paying that $2,500, I mean, that is far from the lowest that we've seen. In fact, we spoke to a law group recently that had suffered a virus attack of this kind, and the ransom to get their files back was $10,000.
$10,000, and they wrote the check quickly. It was a good decision because had they not written that check, they would have been out of business. So they wrote the check. I knew the owner personally. He's a good friend of mine, unfortunately, and that was the wise thing to do. Now he's on that list of people that's paid. We talked about that dilemma earlier in the broadcast. He's on the list of a known payer, so he's now a bigger target.
Exactly. So there's the financial cost. There's the risk of even do you get your files back? And you can see at the end there, ransomware victims spend an average of 42 hours dealing with each of these incidents. So it's not just a financial impact. it's a productivity impact to your business. You have to drop everything that you're doing and focus on recovering the files if they're able to be recovered before you can go back to doing normal business. So it's not just a financial hit, you got to pay the money and you go back to business. These are time-consuming things to deal with and recover from. And then according to the Boston Computer Network Data Loss Statistics Study, 60% of companies that lose their data will shut down within 6 months of the disaster. So it's not just a matter of you've got to cut a check when something like this happens to you. If you're not able to bring back your data, that can have a real threat to being the end of your business. I mean, think about losing your QuickBooks files, your customer files, your invoices, your customer data, your sales data, the products and services that you have actually produced for your clients. If you are a lawyer, somebody who works with intellectual property, you really have a chance of all of your customers' data, all of your business data going up in smoke. And the recovery from that is tremendously difficult, in many cases impossible.
I think it's just the overall distraction and interruption to your business. You can't focus on your business. You can't focus on customers. You're having to focus on survival. You're in survival mode. Panic begins to set in. That's why you don't survive. That's why the business eventually goes under.
All right, so you can see this is not a real pretty picture to be hit by one of these. So what we're going to do is we're going to go into a couple of the strategies for how you protect against these kinds of threats, how you avoid getting into this kind of situation, and at the end of the day, how you recover from something like this if you're unfortunate enough to actually have something like this. So the advice we're going to give here is very general. Obviously, this can apply all the way from a business with 4 or 5 employees all the way up to tens of thousands. So we're not going to dive too deep into the technical nitty-gritty on these, but we are going to give you some real good high-level advice. And we can actually, if we speak to you about your more specific situation, then we can actually give you some more applicable advice for your exact business. But these are all the kind of high-level notes for how we want to see every business protected, regardless of the size. So all of this starts with protection. You want to make sure that you have the proper security in place to make sure that somebody just doing a drive-by attack is not going to be able to impact your business. And a lot of this is common sense stuff. The first thing is to have a business class antivirus, anti-malware protection on your devices and on every device. We go into a lot of businesses as we do our assessments, and we see the free version of AVG that expired 6 months ago. Nobody went and checked it, and they're just kind of running on whatever they happened to download when that computer came from the factory or whatever happened to be loaded on it. A lot of times those computers are just running a 30-day trial, and the trial turns off, and you don't have any protection at all.
What I see very common is customers having several versions of antivirus loaded on. When I ask them why, they say it's double the protection. And it sounds funny, but it's really not. It's kind of sad because they don't know better. They really believe by loading 2 different antivirus, they're doubling their protection. And I've seen clients with 3 different antivirus, tripling their protection. That's why, Ryan, I really believe you have to leave these matters to experts. You have to trust in professionals. You have to leave it to people that are experts in that area to do what they do best.
Yep, and to have a business class antivirus is very important. A lot of the home antivirus, a lot of the free antivirus doesn't have the ability to monitor all the computers in one place. If you don't have the ability to watch what the antivirus is doing, then you don't have any protection. I mean, a lot of antivirus will not remove a lesser threat. They'll just let you know about it. But if you don't have a centralized place where you can see those reports, then you're not getting the benefit of that protection. Second piece is to have a robust business network security. So these are things like having a firewall, having a sonic wall. Every client of ours that's under management has a business grade, currently supported firewall that's sitting between their company network and the internet. And that layer of protection, that separation, is what gives you probably 80% of your protection right off the bat. The Comcast modem that you have, from your internet service provider, your AT&T modem, that's not a security device. You want a dedicated security appliance that is sitting between you and the internet and your business network, so that someone can't just, in a very trivial way, come into your business and start disrupting your data.
Right. I want to give some layman term. I want to remove all technical terms. I kind of want you to go over that again and give some real life scenario where a firewall can protect the customer from an antivirus. How do you give me some layman terms? No technical. You're not allowed to. I'll buzz you if you use any technical terms. Say that again in a layman's term that everyone would understand the purpose of a firewall.
So on a lot of your computers, there's the ability to log in remotely. You can go onto your desktop from another location. And having a firewall is what prevents somebody who's not authorized to come in from outside of your network and log onto your computer and take control of it, whereas you should be the only person who actually has that access. That firewall is that wall between the outside and the inside. So it's just like having a lock on your front door. If you leave your front door not just unlocked but wide open, anybody can walk in and just take your stuff.
So basically, anyone on the internet can have access to my information without a firewall.
Exactly. So that firewall gives you a separation between you and the outside world, and you control who walks through that door.
And that person could be from India, they could be from Russia, they could be from anywhere in the world, or they could be next door.
Exactly. It's also important to monitor the traffic on your network as opposed to just having antivirus. Traditionally, having an antivirus program on your computer was enough. Everybody installed the antivirus, and that was kind of the end of the story. But the threats that you have nowadays aren't just stopped by having antivirus, because they aren't necessarily on the computer. The viruses that are here can attack you from outside the computer. So having an antivirus on that computer doesn't necessarily catch that person who's trying to attack you. So some of the other protections that we put in place are things that monitor the traffic on your network. Just like having a police officer waving traffic through, we watch what's coming in, what's going out, what's going from A to B inside of your network, and we have the ability to catch those threats that are trying to dial in from outside versus living on the computer where an antivirus could catch it.
Ryan, I think I could do one better. Imagine you're having a party, and on that party you hire a security company and you give them a list of guests. And anyone that's not on that list is not allowed to enter into the party. So literally each guest have to be checked in to make sure that they're allowed to attend the party. Isn't that important? I think once a year they have this big shindig at the White House. I would imagine there's a list of VIPs that's allowed to attend that party. I would imagine if you and I showed up at their party, they would escort us out because Patrick Alois and Ryan Lowell would not be on that list. It's no different, folks. It's important that you have a list, all meaning a way to track who's coming into your network. If you don't have a firewall, you don't have the proper protection in place, then anyone can simply access your network.
Exactly. Making sure your business's devices are all on current supported operating systems. This is actually something that surprised me when we saw the news about the WannaCry virus. Microsoft actually, after the infection was taken care of, after the security patches were released, Microsoft actually released a statement and said that there was no known infection from the WannaCry virus to any computer that was running Windows 10. It turns out that only the older versions of Windows, even though they were still currently supported versions, only they were vulnerable. The most recent Windows 10 was not vulnerable to it because it had been built in a more secure way. And that's why it's very important to make sure that all your devices are running on current software, current operating systems, so they can take advantage of those security protections.
I think, Ryan, Windows 10 is a different operating system. Windows 10 is geared to address today's threats, where the previous operating systems were not dealing with some of the issues that we're seeing today. I really believe, without getting political, that our country is under attack, Ryan. I really believe enemies of this country, from different parts of the world, whether it be Russia or India or wherever it may be. Again, I don't want to get political, but we are under attack. And if we don't, as business owners, if we don't take proper action, we're going to become victims of these attacks. So that's just my 2 cents on the idea. We're seeing more in the 30 years I've been in this business, Ryan. I am seeing attacks like I've never had in 30 years, and I have to believe is a result of the current political climate.
Yeah, not only that, but I mean, this is big business. When we started, the virus threats that we used to deal with, back in 10, 15 years ago when I got started in the industry, they were basically from, a bunch of kids that were, just going out to mess things up for kicks. It would delete your data, it would, make your CD drive pop out of the computer, do all kinds of, kind of nuisance stuff. But, it wasn't a real terrible threat to business. But now, these people are stealing your financial information. They're doing wire transfers out of your bank accounts. They are forcing you to pay a ransom to get your files back. There is a lot of money behind this. I mean, this is literally a $1 billion industry.
We had a client that had a request that appeared to have come from the company's controller for X amount of dollars to be wired. And the transfer almost went through.
Yep.
To the last second, they realized that the request was not from the controller. It was from an email that appeared to have been from the controller. So these are the challenges that you're having to deal with as in today's current climate.
Yep. And the last, and probably one of the most important things, guys, is to monitor and update and test everything regularly. A lot of people have the impression that security is set it and forget it. Once you install the antivirus, you're safe and you can go back to what you were doing. And it just isn't the case. The most secure day is the day you roll out the new antivirus. The least secure day is the next day when you have forgotten about it and moved on to the next thing. We deal with threats and infections and attacks on our clients all the time. The only reason that we know about those and can protect against them and can respond to them appropriately is because we are monitoring what is being detected. We're monitoring where those people are trying to get in and seeing those attacks and turning them away and getting them protected against those things. If you don't monitor the state of your security, then you are just as vulnerable as if you didn't have it at all.
And I think that's the biggest issue right there. It's being proactive, Ryan. We take a proactive approach to security because we know there are threats out there lurking around. I go back again to that scenario at that party at the White House. Not only should you be checking who's on the guest list, you should also be checking who's in line, why they're in line. Do we see anyone that should not be in that line? And being proactive, monitoring traffic that access your network gives you an idea that you are under attack or are about to be under attack. So it gives us an opportunity to protect our client and not being reactive, waiting for the attack and responding to that.
Exactly. And, at the end of the day, antivirus is software just like anything else. It needs to be updated. It needs to get its definitions updated. Sometimes it stops running. And if somebody doesn't have their eye on it, if somebody is not responsible to make sure that it's running correctly, then you're going to get into trouble. So that's in terms of putting the protection in place. But once the protection in place, there are still things that you have to do to make sure that you stay secure and that your business operates in a secure way. And Patrick gave you a little heads up about it, but the most important thing in security today is to be vigilant and to have an educated staff when it comes to these security threats. The biggest vulnerability in your organization is not a computer, it's not a tablet, it's not a network or wireless, anything like that. The biggest vulnerability is the people, because one of the leading ways that a lot of these viruses and people are getting into your network is what's called a phishing attack. And a phishing attack is them picking up the phone and calling up and saying, hey, this is the IT department, I need your password, we got to go do an update and whatnot. And lo and behold, they've got the password to your organization, and now they can get in and do all kinds of malicious stuff. So a big part of this, and I think a very neglected part, is educating the end users on what to look out for and not to trust everything that comes into their inbox.
We've had many cases, Ryan, where our clients reported calls from the IRS, which wasn't from the IRS. I have a personal friend of mine. I hope she doesn't mind. I'll just throw out her first name. Let's say her name is Jane. I'm not going to use her actual name. But someone called and said that they were from Bank of America. And she came pretty close and giving them all the information that they would need to access her account. So that's a phishing attack. That's someone pretending to be who they're not. So we protect you against that as well by monitoring all aspects of your network.
Exactly. So just some of the things to watch out for. You should scrutinize every email, every attachment, every link, and just look for things that are suspicious. If you get an email that was written from, John Smith, but it doesn't look like John's writing style, if it something doesn't ring true about it, don't open that email. Don't open the attachment. Calling to confirm is huge. Anytime there's a wire transfer involved, anytime you get an email attachment that you weren't really expecting from that person or looks like it's something out of the way, just give that person a call. The situation that Patrick alluded to where they had the wire transfer, this was actually a very sophisticated attack. This email went to the controller of the business, at least looked like it had come from the CEO, because we're all out there on LinkedIn nowadays. You can see who the CEO and the CFO is. That's all public information. And a wire transfer was something that they did as a matter of course in the type of business that they had. So lucky for them that the controller called the CEO and actually was calling to let him know that he was getting ready to send the wire transfer and that he had gotten the email. And the CEO said, "What wire transfer?" So very, very important. When you see something that doesn't look right, or even something that does look right, if it does look like a wire transfer, call that person and get confirmation that that's really what they wanted to do. And if they didn't, that's your opportunity to stop that threat in its tracks. The other thing, like Patrick said, the IRS is never going to call you, ever. In fact, they've put out a public statement in regards to this specific issue saying, we will never call you. They go through snail mail. You know how the IRS works. They're not the highest in the technology spectrum.
Absolutely. Those guys are not going to pick up the phone to call you.
So if the IRS emails you, tear it up, throw it away. It's not them. I got a call personally from quote-unquote Microsoft telling me that I had a security threat on my computer. Well, we're a Microsoft Gold partner. We've been working with them for about 10 years. We do, $200,000 a year in business with Microsoft. I know they're not calling me to tell me my security is bad. So if someone calls you to tell you you've got a security threat, automatically hang up the phone. Unfortunately, it's very tough to track these guys down. Mine came from an unlisted number. The guy sounded like he was somewhere in the South Pacific. Tough to get these guys and nail them down, but very important not to give your passwords away, not to respond to any kinds of requests like this. And whether it's us or whether it's your internal IT department, anything that looks suspicious, bring it to their attention. And at the very least, they can give you a confirmation whether it's bogus or not. Another very important thing is to operate on secure business platforms like Office 365. Google has G Suite. You want to run on something that's a reputable business grade email system, business grade file systems. I see a lot of people come to us with bellsouth.net addresses and AOL.com addresses, and maybe that was the address that they started up 10 years ago when they were a one-man show, and they just never got rid of that email address. But you have to understand that BellSouth and AOL are not business grade email systems. They don't have the protections and the spam filtering and the scam detection and a whole host of other protections that a business email system has. If you're getting free email from somebody, chances are that company does not have your best security interest at heart.
Ryan, from a credibility standpoint, if you're using one of those domain extension, chances are your email is going to wind up in the spam folder, because just by definition, when your email goes to do a search, it's probably going to recognize whatever coming in from that domain as spam, and you've got a really great chance that your email that you're sending never make it to the inbox, because to that recipient inbox, because of simply the domain that you're on. So from credibility standpoint, it makes sense for you to make the investment to get a domain name that's reputable, that people can trust.
Very important to control where your business data is kept. You have to keep your important information off of your unprotected personal devices. I've seen businesses spend a lot of money and a lot of time and put in place robust protection inside of their office, and then they go and they open up their files from their home computer that's got the rinky-dink antivirus that hasn't been updated in 6 months, and they get a virus, and now all their data is gone. You have to remember, especially nowadays, the term in the industry is BYOD, bring your own device. Everybody's bringing their personal iPhones and their Androids and their tablets, and they're accessing their business stuff from home or from the road. It's very important to make sure that anything that touches your business data has those business protections. You don't want some of your data walking off the reservation and ending up in the wrong hands for the sake of convenience. So make sure that no matter how you're accessing your files, there's plenty of different ways. There's Office 365, there's Dropbox, there's Google Drive. You want to make sure that business information stays on protected business devices. And again, security is not a one-time event. You have to keep these things updated. You have to be vigilant and monitor them. You have to be watching for when something gets detected, and you have to be remediating those issues. You can't just turn on the security and then forget that it exists. So, you've put in place all your protections, you've educated your users, you're vigilant, you're performing all your updates. At the end of the day, that's going to prevent 99% of what will happen to you. But there's always that 1%. Something will get through. A lot of the viruses that get written nowadays are what's called a zero-day virus. They're meant to go out and infect as many people as possible before Microsoft and before the antivirus companies catch on, and just do as much damage as they possibly can as quickly as they can. Very difficult to protect against something like that. So the only defense, and the most important thing that we do for our clients, Patrick goes on and on about this all the time, is we make sure that they've got a secure, robust backup of their data that they can recover from.
I think that's the greatest value your current IT provider can offer. That is to assure, regardless what goes wrong, your business can recover from that. Not just recover, Ryan, they must be able to recover in a timely manner. And you need to know what that number is. Is it weeks? Is it days? Is it hours? Is it minutes? And you have, as the business owner or the president or CEO, you have to be okay. You have to be acceptable with that downtime in terms of how long it would take you to recover. But regardless what that number is, you need to know that you can recover. And if you don't know that to be a fact, then your business is in jeopardy, Ryan.
Yep. There's just no, this is the last line of defense against viruses, not just viruses, against theft, against fire, against any kind of disaster. This is your last line of defense. There's nothing beyond this. The only thing, it's over once you go past this one. So it makes sense to have the most robust protection that you possibly can. And there are a lot of different options for backup solutions. We have people calling us all the time, sell this backup solution for us, sell that backup solution. There's a million ways to go about it, of all sizes, from small business all the way up to national, international, enterprise level systems. There's all kinds of solutions, but in general, I'm going to give you some criteria that you can go and kind of give your backup a scorecard and maybe take away some ideas for how that needs to be improved. So a good backup system runs every hour, every day. You want that backup running as frequently as possible. In fact, we've got some clients where the backup runs every 15 minutes. You want very frequent backups because that determines how stale your information is if you got to bring it back. If you back up every hour, you've never lost more than an hour of work. If your backup runs every 24 hours, you've lost 24 hours of work. And if you multiply that by many employees, that's a significant loss. So you want a backup that runs very frequently. You want a backup that keeps historical copies of your files. You want to make sure that you can turn back the clock as far as you need to get that data back. A lot of these malware, a lot of the ransomware viruses will leave the files where they are, but it'll change them and it'll lock them so you can't get in without paying that ransom. If that's the only copy that you've got, you're out of luck. You can't turn back the clock and go back to when that file was still good and recover that data. So very important to have a historical record and make sure that that history goes as far back as you need to in order to recover. This is very important. You want to make sure that the data is kept off-site or in the cloud. You want to make sure that your data is not dependent on the device that it's sitting on. We live in a state that gets hurricanes, lightning strikes, you can have a fire, you can have somebody break into your office and steal your equipment. If your backup lives in the same place as your data, it's not worth much.
Brian, I like to do things the old-fashioned way. I like to give people real life scenarios that they can relate to. And the one that comes to mind is having that spare key in the glove compartment. It's the same thing. Having that thumb drive, that external hard drive, whatever it is that you're using to back up that data. If you have it in the same area where if the equipment is stolen, the backup can be stolen, you in essence, my friend, have your only spare key to your vehicle in the glove compartment, which means if the door is locked, you're not getting to that glove compartment. So I have to warn you to not keep your spare key in the glove compartment, because if you do, you're not going to be able to access that key when you need it, which is the same case with your data.
Yep, exactly. And make sure your data is securely encrypted. You have to remember, a lot of people think of your backup as something different than your data, but your backup contains all of your data. That's where all your business data is. And it's a second copy. It's a redundant copy. It's something that you can bring your business back from if you have a catastrophic loss. But you have to protect your backup too, because if somebody gets their hands on your backup, then they've got all your business data. So having a solution that encrypts that data, that locks it up in a way that you can get back, but is secure from somebody else, is very, very important. You also want a backup solution that can be easily tested and verified. Every week, we test every single backup for every single one of our customers to make sure that when you need it, that backup is there. That data is there for you to recover from and make sure you can bring your business back. A backup that can't be tested is no backup at all. That's like throwing your keys in the lake and hoping you've got a spare key somewhere, but you don't really know exactly where it is.
That's a good scenario, Ryan.
Next thing is recovery. You want a recovery time of 1 hour or less. Take the number of employees you've got, multiply that by however many hours it takes you to recover from your backup. That's how many dollars you've lost. Most good backup solutions nowadays, within not even an hour, within half an hour, within 15 minutes, you can get your data back. If your recovery time is half a day, a whole week longer, then you are losing productivity and you're losing payroll. And the payroll is the biggest expense of a business. You want to make sure that you can recover quickly. And the last thing, you want to make sure that that backup runs automatically. You do not want someone to have to run that backup or plug in that drive manually to make sure that your business is protected. Because day one, your backup's going to run. Day two, maybe it'll run. Day three, I had that meeting I had to get to. I forgot to do it. I'll get back to it later. And sure enough, 6 months down the line, what happened to our backup? Well, it ran 6 months ago.
It's called human error, Ryan.
Mm-hmm.
You want to remove the element of human error. That's why you want the backup to run automatically. This way, there's no excuses as to why the backup didn't run. So if you have a current system that relies on an office manager or a receptionist that's got to remember to run the backup, I can pretty much tell you there's a good possibility when you need that backup, it's not going to be there.
Yep. So if you can check all those boxes on your current backup solution, you're in good shape. But let's talk about some of the ones that maybe are what we see a little bit more frequently when we go in to do those assessments. So, just as a good backup runs every hour, every day, bad backup runs about once a day or less. The old standard for a backup was every 24 hours. The backup would run at midnight, take a backup of the server, all the data, and it wouldn't run again until the next day. But that was in a time where business wasn't happening in email. It wasn't happening in files. It wasn't happening online. Your business is online today. It doesn't matter if you are a lawyer or a doctor or a plumber, anybody. All your business is happening online. So if you can't recover from the last hour, if it takes you a day to recover, or you lose a day worth of work, you're losing a tremendous amount of value in your business. That's your employees' time. That's the value of the documents that you've written and your intellectual property. You lose a tremendous amount when you can't recover back an hour or two at most. Going back to a previous day, or worse yet, a week or a month, that can be a tremendous loss to a business. You also want to make sure that, like I said, you want those historical copies of all your files. If you've only got a single copy of your data, that's not very good, because those ransomware viruses, they're going to change your files. They're going to lock your files. If all you've got is that one copy, you might have gotten that virus and not realized it yet. Take your backup, and now your backup is worthless to you because it's full of all the files that you need to recover, and they're already locked up. This is the notorious one. USB sticks, portable hard drives are not a backup solution. If that's what you're depending on right now, I better get an email from you at the end of this webinar saying I need help changing this, because those, not only are they generally very cheap devices, you're getting these in the bargain bin at the front of Best Buy. They're not super reliable, but they're vulnerable to everything that your computer is. If you get a virus, the first thing it looks for is attached storage devices. It's going to lock up your backups. If you have a fire and your computer burns, so does your backup. If you have a theft and someone steals the computer, they're going to steal everything that's attached to the computer. Having that USB stick or portable hard drive is just not any kind of protection that'll be there when you need it.
It's the spare key in the glove compartment.
Yeah, exactly. Again, you want your data to be secured and encrypted in that backup, so that if the backup is stolen or somebody accesses that shouldn't, they can't steal your data from your backup. So an unprotected copy, a lot of people will plug in that USB hard drive and copy all their files over. So you're breaking both rules. You're putting it on a USB hard drive and you're making only a single copy. You know, it's just too vulnerable. It's not a backup if the backup is just as vulnerable as your computer. If you don't have any way to verify that your data is protected, again, making that copy onto a USB stick or onto an external hard drive, all good business grade backup software has a way to verify that every file was backed up correctly. If you don't have that way to verify, your backup isn't reliable. You can't verify that you've got everything that you need to recover. Again, recovering in 1 day or more, you're losing time, you're losing productivity, you're turning the clock back on all the work that you've done and making it much more difficult to recover from that loss. And anybody that's got to go and run that backup, if it's got the human element in it, you're not going to have a reliable, robust backup that you can depend on to bring you back. You don't want someone to go and have to hit that backup button to make it work. So where do we kind of tie into all this? We've touched on it a little bit, but essentially, guys, we take the driver's seat for everything that we just talked about. We take responsibility for making sure that the security and the backup and the monitoring is in place and stays in place and stays and protects you from these threats. When we come into a new client, we come in and we assess what you've already got. We put together a plan to address any security deficiencies. We deploy the solutions that we use to keep you safe, and then we monitor those and make sure that they stay in place so that your business is protected. As I said before, we're managing and we're testing your antivirus, your anti-malware. We're watching that cloud security and network reporting. We're making sure your backup runs so you can depend on it when you need it. When a business interruption happens, we're there to make sure you get back on your feet quickly. It's crucial for someone to be there with the plan in hand, ready to go, because the last thing you want is to be trying to figure out how to recover from these things when they happen. You know, we've seen a lot of people try to do their own recovery and, you know, figure out where that backup was stored and the last time it was run and how did they bring it back to the server, and there's no plan there. And, you know, Patrick, you can tell us
Absolutely.
what it looks like.
Folks, we offer worry-free IT. The reason we offer worry-free IT is because you need to be focusing on your business. Whatever that business is, if it's a law firm, if it's a medical practice, if it's a plumbing business, you need to be out there getting customers and delivering that professional service, not trying to be an IT person. It never fails. Every time I try to do a project at home, a couple of weekend ago, I figured I'd change my toilet. It seems really, really easy. I wind up going to Home Depot 10 times. I had the wrong tool, then I didn't have I was so frustrated. And the sad part is I wind up spending all this money and time only to call a plumber later to have him do it. So I believe you use professionals, and that's why you should consider us when selecting an IT vendor.
All right. So, and again, we're the ones that are keeping up to date on the upcoming security threats. We're watching the news. You know, before it hits CNN, you know, it's hitting our news sites a month earlier. And the people that are watching for these new types of threats and preparing you for them are the ones that are going to help you steer around them when others are having to react to being hit by them. So very important to keep an eye out on the new threats, and that's a big part of our job, is being that advocate for our client and staying educated and on the bleeding edge of this stuff. So I know we ran over a little bit on time. I don't think we've gotten any Q&As, but if anybody is interested in having a specific question addressed, we've got our contact information here up on the screen. Be happy to come out and speak to you about whatever security threat or concern, or even if you just want us to take a quick look at what you've got going on. And on that, right now we are offering a no-cost security assessment. There are a lot of people that just need a little head start in getting their business secure. And a lot of people don't want to make an upfront investment and, paying a consultant to come out and, they're not sure they're going to get value for that money. So what we're doing is, for a limited number of companies, we will come out and we will bring our tools and our security assessments and our scans, and we'll plug into your network, and we'll give you a report and a remediation plan to show you what threats that you currently have and what you can do to address those things. So if you're interested in doing something like that, you can email me. We'd be happy to come out, take a look at your business, and help you get you started on the right path to getting secure.
Absolutely. We think that we can be of tremendous value to your organization. We can partner with you. Over the years, we've grown with our clients. That's where the partnership comes in. Our job is to allow you to focus on your business while we focus on the IT aspect. So we certainly hope you would consider Complete Care IT when looking for an IT partner.
All right. So guys, again, thanks. I know we ran over some time, so for anybody that's still hanging around, thank you very much for attending. We really appreciate you guys spreading the word on these webinars. We're going to be doing more of them on a couple of different topics. So please let us know if you're interested in seeing more content. And if you have a specific topic that you'd like us to go over, please let us know. We'd be happy to address whatever everyone's interested in. So again, I'm Ryan Lowell with Complete Care IT, and Patrick, our CEO and president. And we just want to thank you for coming out.
Thank you for joining us today. And remember, our job is to get your IT to work like a light switch where you never have to think about it.
All right. Take care, everyone.